Welcome on over to Automotive World, everyone. I'm your host, Vinny Mystery, and tonight we have a ton of stories tonight, actually. But we're getting into one of our most important ones here, which we're going to be using a bunch of different sources here for. But we have for Chrysler, for the Pacifica. This is a very popular model. This is essentially kind of the only model Chrysler really has left for their minivan, really for all their vehicles in general here. But we have a recall for the Chrysler Pacifica, and this is for the plug-in hybrid EV version, because there is two different hybrid versions. There's a traditional hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. This is a recall for a recall. This is very similar to the Ford story we did a little while ago. Chrysler is issuing another recall again over a fire risk recall, and they are issuing another recall to that recall. Stay with me here, because the first previous fix was not effective enough. Now, this is going to be affecting nearly 20,000 Pacificas through model years 2021, and this is going to be still at risk for that battery fire. And this is going to include even if the vehicle is not in motion, even if the ignition is off. Chrysler is issuing a park outside, park away from buildings, because this vehicle, unfortunately, can still combust even if unused. And we have that here. We have it for a bunch of reasons on here. We do have the main cause of it is going to be from the hybrid system, which we're going to talk about right here. So this recall is essentially affecting 20,000 Pacificas from model years 2017 to 2021. So nothing in the last 3 to 4 years necessarily, but still relatively modern years. And unfortunately, what we have here is a previous flaw from the battery pack, which, like I said, even when the vehicle is not in motion, can still ignite. The previous fix was a software fix, and Chrysler and Stellantis essentially is confirming that software fix is not effective in solving the issue, as even with that software fix, there have continued to have been cases. So we can see here from the latest recall 73B from Chrysler here, there have been several vans that have experienced the fires after having the previous recall performed. They don't give us an exact number as to how many of them, but they do say there have been several vans that not only have experienced problems, but have experienced fires. That is not good. That is absolutely not, that is not good at all. And so, when you have an issue like that, when the vans are catching on fires and that problem is stemming from the high voltage battery pack, they talk about the node tab here, which could be folded, it can be torn. They don't tell us whether that is over time, whether it's a manufacturing defect from the factory and things like that. But the fact that even with this fix, they have had several vans catch on fire, also not telling us if there has been anybody affected in those cases. This is absolutely not good, and this is at a time where, when you guys have seen on the channel, we've done videos on recalls, especially from Ford, about, and we've actually got another story to cover with them later, and Stellantis later tonight, which you'll see soon on the channel. Just the amount of vehicles they're pumping out that are just having massive recalls. Clearly there's problems with build quality, but we've talked about it, even with Toyota too. We've got a video coming up, we've talked about it on the podcast. We've talked about these recalls and what is going on. Are these car manufacturers losing kind of their touch? Are they, what's going on? Why are we seeing this many recalls? And I think this is just another sadly valid example that shouldn't have happened, but this just kind of, rubbing more salt in the wound and really, showing to the general public that, these manufacturers are clearly doing things wrong. They know they're doing stuff wrong, and they're just clearly, whether you can say not caring about it or, there's probably tons of reasons, but this is just not a good look for them. And now, according, what we have here, according to the recall, because of that folded or torn node tab, this could create lithium byproduct over time. They say that alone isn't necessarily the issue. There's a second unidentified factor along with that lithium byproduct, but that can cause an internal short. So like I said, this is bad because obviously the software issue is fixed. It was not effective enough. There have been several fires after that, but the fact that there are, they're not telling us how many people have been affected. They are telling us that there is a second issue, unidentified, which might not directly be causing the problem, but maybe indirectly enhancing the direct reason that caused the problem. We really don't know. So this is, there's a lot of uncertainty here, and clearly within this one issue of the hybrid battery pack catching on fire, clearly there are multiple things wrong within that battery pack that are causing this issue. So even though, yes, this recall is for one thing because of the hybrid battery pack, we can honestly argue this is multiple things because there are clearly multiple issues, some which are identified and some which are not. And because of that here, generally speaking, a short circuit, obviously within a high voltage battery pack, obviously that's bad when it's in a vehicle, and obviously that's bad when it's not in a vehicle. I mean, just science, high voltage battery packs and a short circuit, even a short circuit in anything, even in the low voltage, is never necessarily a good thing. And as we can see here, from 2017 to 2018, under a separate recall, there were 15,950 Pacifica plug-in hybrid vehicles under recall, and then another 3,606 models from 2019 to 2021. Though the problem is the same in that, we do talk about here with the 19,556 Pacificas in the US, those risks, that is the total that can occur at any time, even with the ignition off. So really, as we talk about from 2017 to 2021, even though it is the same issue, there was two separate recalls, because essentially one was for when the vehicle was in motion, being used actively at the time. The other one, it could happen anytime, even with the ignition off. But the fact that that same issue has stemmed for that long and created this type of problem, like I said, this is not a good look for Chrysler, and this is just not a good look in general. And it's not a good thing at all. This shouldn't happen on any vehicle. And so, as we can see here, they did do a software update to monitor that battery for conditions leading to a fire. Obviously, that was not effective enough. Under the recall, that were they inspected battery packs and they would be replaced if deemed necessary. The initial recall, 2022, 12 fires potentially related to that battery issue. Since then, 7 additional fires have occurred in Pacificas that had the fix. And the automaker right now isn't aware of any accidents as a result of the issue, but 4 injuries have been reported. So as I did mention earlier, I did say that we didn't have any numbers. They do give us some numbers down here for that. Obviously, the fact that 4 people have been injured and there have been 7 additional fires, this is not good at all. And this is very similar to what Ford did with the Escape and things when we saw that with that cracked cylinder head. Issuing that software update to put it into limp home mode. It just kind of sucks to see, because it's like that was, we just covered something like that a few months ago, and the fact that we're seeing that happen now with a very similar situation, the same amount of units from roughly the same amount of time, model year wise, it's just not good to see that. Now, obviously, the new fix will be revised in software in theory that can catch those potential problems the previous update missed. They also do say technicians are going to inspect and replace the batteries as needed. And as of September 6th, Chrysler owners will be getting direct owner notification. Until then, from 2017 to 2021 model years, because these vehicles have a risk right now of catching on fire, whether they're being used or not, Chrysler is saying keep them outside, park them away from any structures, park them away as far as possible from structures and other property. But this is just really, really not good, because even in the current fix here, that's kind of what they did before. They did a software update, and if the batteries needed to be replaced, they would have replaced them. But the fact that it's just, I don't know. I don't want to say anything necessarily bad, because obviously I'm not an engineer, so I don't have the knowledge to, speak necessarily upon that. But it just kind of sounds like they're going to do the same thing that they did before, maybe obviously a little bit more in depth as they have more data and, they've learned maybe more. But I don't know. I just don't feel necessarily confident saying this new recall is going to do anything. I hope it does, because obviously there have been multiple fires after that. There have been 4 people injured, and the Pacifica is really Chrysler's last model left, and it's a very popular minivan. And being a minivan, single people or couples of 2 people don't buy a minivan. When you buy a minivan, you have a lot of people in your house. You have a lot of kids, so obviously you're buying a minivan because you have a lot of people, and more than likely those people are of extremely high value to you. So you don't want those kind of things to happen here. That these 4 people have already, unfortunately had to have occurred. So that's gonna do it for now. We're going to cover a lot more stories like this. Unfortunately, tonight we have a lot of stories like this, and we'll obviously stay on to this as we did with the Ford case as well. And you guys are probably seeing that Ford video. I have a lot of engagement on that video, a lot of views, a lot of comments. Just like on that video, I'd love to get to know your owner's aspect of it. You guys are the real world data that I can actually find out and report on, and really we can build cases and things like that. So if you are an owner or previous owner of this, or you have been affected by this recall in any sort of way, please let me know down in the comments. Just what do you think of all this? I mean, are you confident? Like, do you still have your vehicle? Did you get rid of it? Are you confident in the brand? Did anything happen to you? Is there anything maybe you need to, feel you need to say necessarily? Because obviously this is clearly an ongoing issue that Chrysler hasn't solved yet. So let me know what you guys and girls think down below. This is going to do it for now. You can see all the tabs. We got a lot more stories, but for right now, thanks for watching, everyone.